This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Prices for heavier crude oil along the U.S. Gulf Coast have climbed in recent weeks, trading at a rare near par with lighter oil, a sign of supply tightness that could add to rising gasoline prices. Refineries along the Gulf Coast, which account for more than 55% of total U.S. refining capacity, are geared to run medium and heavy crudes which produce more diesel and jet fuel than lighter oil. Heavier crudes are typically cheaper as they are dirtier and cost more to process. Pushing up heavy crude prices are falling oil exports from Mexico, the potential for resumption of sanctions on Venezuelan crude, the imminent startup of a Canadian pipeline, and continued output cuts by the OPEC+.
Oil prices stabilized on Tuesday as prices ticked higher amid fading hopes that negotiations between Israel and Hamas would produce a ceasefire in Gaza. Brent crude futures edged up 6 cents, or 0.07%, to $90.44 per barrel by 11:56 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate, WTI, crude futures were down 2 cents or 0.02% at $86.41. On Monday, Brent posted its first decline in 5 sessions and WTI its first in 7 as a fresh round of Israel-Hamas ceasefire discussions in Cairo spurred prospects of a breakthrough.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Mexico's state energy company, Pemex, is planning to cut at least 330,000 barrels per day, BPD, of crude exports in May, leaving customers in the United States, Europe and Asia with a third less supply, 2 sources said. The plan follows the withdrawal of 436,000 barrels of oil per day of Maya, Isthmus and Olmeca crudes this month, ordered by Pemex to its trading arm PMI Comercio International because it needs to supply more to its domestic refineries as it targets energy self-sufficiency. Pemex has no option other than applying monthly cuts to exports after its crude production in February fell to the lowest level in 45 years and the country's refineries, including a new facility in the port of Dos Bocas, began taking in more crude oil.
China's coal industry says it doesn't expect imports to increase this year, but the evidence from the first quarter is that the appetite of the world's biggest buyer remains ravenous. China's imports of all grades of coal from the seaborne market were 97.43 million metric tons in the first quarter of 2024, up 16.9% from 83.36 million tons in the same period in 2023, according to data compiled by commodity analysts Kepler. The robust growth in imports contrasts with the downbeat assessment of China's coal sector at an industry conference in Xiamen last month, where the consensus of views was that imports will remain flat, or even decline in 2024. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. More than 25 global auto and battery makers have expressed interest in buying nickel from Australia-listed producer Nickel Industries' new Indonesian plant, CEO Justin Werner said on Tuesday, in the latest boost to Indonesia's nickel dominance. The company is offering 70,000 to 80,000 metric tons a year from its new high-pressure acid leach plant in Sulawesi that is due to be finished in the second half of 2025. We have had very good interest, Werner told Reuters. We are not in a rush to make a decision. Indonesia has emerged as a supply powerhouse on the back of low costs, producing more than half of the world's nickel, and is expected to account for nearly 3/4 of global supply by the end of the decade.
Vietnam's top miner Vinacoman plans to invest 182 trillion dong, $7.3 billion, to ramp up its alumina aluminium production to meet the country's rising demand for the metal, the government said on Tuesday. The investment by the state-run firm will go to 2 bauxite exploration projects and 5 refining projects in the Central Highlands province of Dak Nong, the government said in a statement. It did not give a time frame for completion. The Southeast Asian country, a regional manufacturing hub, started its alumina production more than a decade ago, but there have been concerns about pollution and high electricity consumption.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
The amount of U.S. winter wheat rated good or excellent by the U.S. Department of Agriculture held steady from last week despite concerns over drier weather and wind, data showed on Monday. The second report of the year showed 56% of wheat in good to excellent condition, in line with a Reuters poll of analysts and the best for this time of year since 2020. The improved crop prospects after 3 years of drought in the U.S. Great Plains underscore how global grain supplies are shifting to surplus from shortage.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.